when a resistance, an area pattern resistance is broken, what happens to that resistance? It becomes support. In the same way that if you have a breakdown of an area pattern support, what happens to that support? It becomes a resistance. Why? Because if you think about it, if an area pattern resistance is broken, what's a resistance? A resistance is an area where there's a lot of sellers. So ano ibig sabihin nun? Pag binasag ang resistance, what does it mean? All those sellers were absorbed by buyers. And now, you now have a line that used to have a lot of sellers, resistance, that is now a line or an area where you have a lot of buyers or a support, right? Trend lines in action. So to summarize everything, assuming that we focus on uptrends, the idea is that you want to buy closer to pullbacks to your support line. Pullbacks to the support of your uptrend line, yan, or a breach of a downtrend line in the case of downtrends. In this case, what do we have here, an uptrend or a downtrend? We have an uptrend. So you want to buy closer to pullbacks of your uptrend line. You guys see that? So you want to buy as close to your support line as possible. Why? Because when your support line breaks, you want to buy as close to your uptrend line as possible. Because when your support line breaks, in this case over here, then you're cutting small. Or you're protecting your position. And you're not even going to waste time in a stock that is starting to trend the other way, and you now want to focus your money in an uptrending issue. You want to buy on the bounce of support, meaning prices, you're seeing it approach support and you're mentally preparing yourself to see a bounce, and then when you see the start of a bounce, then you want to enter. But let me tell you, from someone that's someone that also looks at the exact same setup to enter, I'd say 9 out of 10 times it's always scary to buy at support. That's also talaga. Kasi if prices are approaching support, what does it mean? It means that who's in control, sellers or buyers? Sellers are pushing it towards support. Maybe because of some bad news, maybe because of some external news, maybe global, macro, Philippines, or maybe related to the company. But the point is that it is predominantly being sold up until that point where you see that bounce or you see the turn. And from a sentiment point of view, it's always, your support will always be accompanied by negative sentiment. Just think about it the past few days. If you look at the issues like SM Prime, issues that went up like BDO, issues that went up like, konti pa lang BPI, you have a Semirara at its downtrend support channel, you have some of these issues. All of these issues were at support. Anong nasa utak ng mga tao? Baka mag-breakdown. Diba? Yun ang nasa utak ng mga tao eh. You always have to be mentally prepared, and you always have to be conscious and think that it's always negative to buy at support. Even if you're bouncing off support, even if your eyes are already telling you pumasok ka, yung puso mo ayaw, di ba? Ganun talaga yun, pag nasa support. Which is why, if you take a survey across most traders, majority of traders still prefer to buy on the breakout of resistance. That's still the majority choice of most traders. Why? Because by the time it reaches resistance, it breaks out, mas sigurado ka na, mas kampante ka na, sentiment has already improved. But for me, personally, I like buying on the support bounce. Why? Because although sentiment is more negative, and although I'm not sure if prices are going to break out, The only thing I can take comfort in, the only thing I'm sure of is the risk that I'm taking. Which for me is okay, because yun lang naman yung kontrolado ko eh. Which is the risk eh. Which means that I'm buying as close to support. If that breaks, I'm out. Right? So, mentally, it's always harder to buy the bounce of support versus buying the bounce of resistance. You want to hold as long as your trend lines do not break, and you want to sell when your uptrend line breaks. Why do you want to sell when your uptrend line breaks? Because when your uptrend line breaks, it invalidates your uptrend. Your uptrend is no longer in play. The reason why you deployed money there in the first place is no longer there, right? In the same way that if you think about it, if you have an uptrend like this, what does an uptrend line represent? An uptrend line is represented by a lot of buyers. Heaviness in buying interest. That 7 to 8 out of 10 times, an uptrend line will always break, not because of profit taking, but because of huge holders of the stock already distributing their shares. When you have an uptrend line, breakdowns never or rarely happen because of profit taking. Because usually, an uptrend line has enough buyers to absorb that profit taking. A breakdown happens when you already have distribution. Distribution as opposed to profit taking. Profit taking are just people, traders, profit taking their shares. Distribution are people who accumulated a large position and are now ready to distribute their shares. Big holders of the stock. So obviously you want to buy here, the bounce of your support line, and you want to sell here as the uptrend line breaks, right? And then what happens is that your uptrend is invalidated. Prices change direction, whether it's a downtrend in the short term or a sideways trend. But as soon as prices start to break out again, or show a low high, higher low, higher high, then it becomes an uptrend. It's something you should get back into.